Welcome to View from Above. I'm Garrett Lale with John Buerger here of Altus Wealth Solutions in San Luis Obispo, California. John, good to see you. Small business owners, especially in if you're a 2, 3, 4 person operation, it can be a challenge sometimes to necessarily know where you need to spend your time or where you're going to be the most productive. And I think, we were kind of talking about the daily schedule and kind of prioritizing your day, but I think you can probably take that on any scale. How are you going to prioritize your day-to-day task management? How are you going to prioritize over the longer picture or bigger picture? What percentage of your time needs to be spent in A versus B versus C? How do you advise your clients on where best to spend their time in running their business, and how to self-evaluate to kind of know where their time's best spent?
So one of the things that I try to do with clients is pull it back and get back to the main framework, which is essentially for a business. And once you have 3 persons in the business, when you're talking about 1 or 2, it's a little more difficult to get into this concept. And that's not really the kinds of clients that I tend to spend time with. But 3, 4 people in a business operation, 10 people, 12 people. What we really are striving for, and the work that I'm doing with those clients, a lot is focused on, is that we're building a machine. We're building a machine that's not just you. You're not a solopreneur. Can't do it all. And the whole idea is the machine has people, and you're paying those people, and you're actually leveraging their time and their energy, as well as what you're paying them, and getting a return on that leverage. And try to get the owner to think in those terms. Is like, all right, how good is this machine? And if the machine is just you, it's not a machine. It's person. You might have strapped on some additional braces or something on the body, but it's still just a human being, and there's really not a lot of leverage there, and there's not a machine. And we really want to get it to that point. And I think that has helped a number of clients that I've worked through, when we have those conversations over and over again, and we do have them over and over again, because the natural tendency is, I built this thing, this is me, and you're so much of your personality is in there. There are strategies you can follow. There are methods you can implement that will help to reflect you in the machine. And we certainly want to focus on doing that. But the first step is to acknowledge that what you are building is a machine, and it's not you. And through that conversation, then we can start thinking about, all right, well, so how is your time best spent? But it's got to be within the framework that it's because if you go into something and you're just looking at how am I spending my time, I want to spend it the most efficiently possible. If you're looking at that question through the framework of how am I spending my time most usefully, without thinking about I'm building a machine here, then I think it's a really tough question to answer, and it's really easy to get waylaid by the first distraction that comes along. And it's like, you're going to go back to your modus operandi, which is, hey, you know what, I'm really good at marketing. I've always been really good at marketing, and I'm probably better at marketing than anybody else that I have here. It's really easy to say, well, I'll just do it, because teaching somebody or helping somebody else that's on your staff to rise up to doing it at the level that you've been so gifted to be able to do, you're not going to make that effort. But when you look at that same question in the context of, I'm trying to build a machine here, and in order for me to build the best machine possible, I can't be the one that is turning this particular wheel. Somebody else has got to do it, and they've got to do it as well as I can do it. But in order for that to happen, I'm going to have to take the time and energy to teach them and train them and mentor them to getting up to that level, because the goal is to get it so that I'm not the one turning this wheel. Maybe today I have to do it or work with them to turn it. And that's the hardest part, I think, for all of us, is you're not going to naturally have, 12 staff members who can all do all the things that need to get done, and that's it. Some of them are going to have to grow into some positions. They may have natural talent at it, but they still got to be trained, still got to grow into it. And I think that's the the hardest part as an owner to accept that you have to do that teaching, mentoring, training. But in the end, that's the best because once you've given them that license and you've given them that training and that mentoring, and they realize they can do it, they're doing more for you than they were the day you hired them, and they'll stay because of that as well.
Well, and another way to, second layer of the cake, I suppose, to that too, is that there is what's the most efficient way for the owner or management team to spend their time. But then there's also looking at each individual component of your team and evaluating where is the best use for that person. And it's interesting. It's not always something that jumps right off the page at you because there are going to be times that
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of it. I hate to always use sports analogies because, I know everybody out there is not a sports fan, but, sometimes you've got athletes, they
They
do. I
do
mean,
work
Magic
really
Johnson
well.
comes to mind. I mean, he was 6'9" and played point guard. That doesn't necessarily, add up most of the time in basketball. Usually your 6'9" guys are down low in the paint. But for him, he was such a good ball handler that it made sense for him to run point guard, despite the fact that he was 6'9". Yes, he was a heck of a great rebounder for a point guard, but when you look at his overall skill set, it made more sense for him to run the offense from that position. You can look at football players the same way. There are going to be some situations where your greatest strength may not necessarily align with where you're the most needed. If there's someone else who is almost as good or can be trained to be almost as good as you.
Yeah, so there's two parts to my answer to that question. The first part is that you, as the team manager, probably shouldn't be on the field or only on the field as little as humanly possible because the reality is you can't be the manager on the sideline and be the guy on the field in most cases. So somebody's got to be the coach, and I look at the owner. That's got to be you. You got to be the manager. You've got to be the one that. So try to extract yourself, partly because it business is successful not because the owner is doing everything. Businesses are successful, again, it goes back to because the business is leveraging the work of all the people. You're paying them well for the work that they are doing, but they are creating more profit. They are creating more than what you are paying them for. Because if you're paying them for all the profit that they're generating, your business is going to die. It's just that's the reality. There's no return on investment there. So you always want to make sure you are leveraging them. And that's not being disingenuous to the workers that are working, but they're there. They have a job. They have security, and somebody else needs to be leveraging them and should be leveraging them. I have a company that I work with that is a construction firm, and they have one guy in the field, and that guy in the field, he makes $150,000 a year in the field, and that company still makes really good money off of the work that he does, and he's happy. The company is happy, and he's an incredible worker, and everybody's thriving in that environment. So you always want to have that. So the first part of the addressing the question is you should be the manager off the field and get the right players on the field and getting them to do whatever is their best position within the context of it. It may not always be their number one ability. It does need to be something that's in their wheelhouse, right? Cam Newton was great as a quarterback, and because of his running back capabilities, that actually added to his threat as a quarterback because even though he couldn't throw the ball as well as, Tom Brady, there was always that chance that he could run and really punish the other team. And they always had to keep that in check. And as a result, his best position was not his number one wheelhouse. His number one wheelhouse was as a running back. But his best position for that team was the double role because he could do both. And one adequately well and the other one really, really well. And that's creative marketing, creative management at its best. So you're looking at your team and you're saying, all right, what are all the strengths of each of these people, and what is the best mix of all of those strengths of those people? And certainly, you want to make sure that if you have one staff member or employee who is really good, this is their number one wheelhouse thing, that you're at least utilizing some of that, because that is their number one strength, and you definitely want to make sure that you're giving them the ability to do that. But it doesn't have to be the only thing that they do, and that's my point. I always try to focus on, there's this 80-20 rule, and I've said the best management teams are the ones that allow their staffs to spend 80% of their time doing the stuff that is within their wheelhouse. Right? We're all going to have to do stuff that's not in our wheelhouse. Every one of us has some 20% of our jobs that it's just like, somebody's got to do it. All right, I can kind of do that. I don't like doing it. It's not a lot of fun, but I can live with 20% of my life doing stuff that seems like drudgery. That's not really efficient use of your people and putting them in the places where they can thrive.
Yeah, and it is. I like the term that you use there, dynamic creative management. I believe it was a creative management, creative leadership. I can't remember the exact term you used there, but
Creative management.
yeah,
Yeah.
creative management, because it's you're right. I mean, with Cam Newton as the example, and I really don't know. I'm going to really test you right here, John. If you can figure out a way to take this next comment into a meaningful business statement, I'm going to be impressed. But one of the things about Cam was, no, he wasn't as accurate of a passer as Tom Brady was, but not only did his ability to run also make him more dynamic of a threat, but it also made it to where he didn't have to be as accurate, because a lot of times his receivers were wide open because so many people were in his face trying to keep him from running. Now, sometimes he still missed that wide open receiver, which is, a different conversation for a different day. But it's just I love the way you use that. That was a great way to explain it, because it's not always as cut and dry as this is what this person's good at, this is what they have to do. Sometimes what this person does well opens opportunities up for others in the team to be able to thrive more in their role and to be more productive for the overall organization. So
going back to another phrase that I can't remember who coined it. I picked it up from the Jim Collins book, but it essentially, you want to make sure you have the right people who are on the bus. And then once they're on the bus, they have the best seats on the bus for them. And both of those components are equally important. Because if you don't have the right people on the bus, it doesn't matter how good you are at placing them in seats on the bus. You still have toxic environments, you still have non-productive environments, you still have waste and inefficiency, and essentially you have the people who shouldn't be there dragging the rest of them off the bus. But having all the right people on the bus, if you aren't the ideal manager who knows how to place those players in the right places on the bus to get the most out of them, to give them the most opportunities to be successful, you're still waste, inefficiency, and frankly, I think business, maybe not so much in the last 4 or 5 years where the rising tides floated all boats in almost all businesses, have had it pretty easy, and they've been allowed to be soft in their decisions and not be punished for not being as efficient and effective as they maybe need to be. That is one of the things that we'll probably talk about in the near future, is as if the economy rolls over and there's increasing probabilities that we will go into a tougher time. And look, we're going to go into a tougher economic time, whether it's in 3 weeks, 3 months, or 3 years. It's going to happen. And what I'm trying to work with my clients right now and spending time with business owners is, are you ready for that? How can you be more ready for that when it happens, so that you aren't reacting to that moment, you are responding to that moment, and maybe even pivoting through that moment to accelerate? Because that's when business goes from, it's a so-so business to an incredible business for your employees, and it allows you to keep them because you're pivoting through tough times. So anyway, with all of that in mind, you want to make sure that the people you have are literally thriving and making the most efficient, you're making the most efficient, effective decisions with regards to how you're placing them in the operation so they can create the most value and your customers then can pay you the most for that value.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it can be difficult to maybe even necessarily see that from your field of vision inside the business, and some folks just may not have the vision and the eye to be able to spot that best way to put things together. That being said, perfectly, hopefully will segue close there. If you would like an objective outside third party to be able to come in and get their eyes on your organization and offer some ideas and some insights into ways to put that winning formula together, I'm sure John would be more than happy to chat with you. You can visit altuswealth.com to learn more and reach out to John to schedule a time to chat with him. John, anything you would add to that? Did I segue that well enough, or is that was kind of a sloppy off the cuff segue? But anything you'd add?
I don't think so, because as I was wrapping up my comment, I'm looking at it going, you got the backdrop behind him, and it's that 30,000-foot view from above, right? And quite frankly, that's the challenge. It's been the challenge for me in my business, my own business. It's been the challenge for all my own businesses. It's the challenge every manager, every owner, every person that person that's on the sideline trying to figure out how to call the shots. You need the perspective of other people, I believe, to help get you out of the forest and see the forest for the trees and be able to have the bandwidth and even just mentor you to have the bandwidth and the time to pull yourself away from it enough to look at the people you have working for you and really just say, hey, what's the best use of these people? What are the seats on the bus? Actually ask the question, what are the seats on the bus? And then once we know what the seats on the bus are, who are the best people to be in those seats? And maybe if I move John over from that seat to that one and I put Garrett in that one over there, would that make something better? And that's actually a lot of the work that I do and we do as a firm is just really asking the questions of them and being willing to hear the owner say, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way. That's something to think about. I'm not sure I'm ready to do that. Okay, that's fine. Our job is to introduce new ideas and concepts to the business and give business owners the opportunity to explore those ideas and move forward. We're not telling somebody, you need to do this. John needs to be in that seat over there. He's in the wrong seat. I've had business owners disengage from me because I'm not going to tell them that. And they want, because our role is really as coaches and mentors and not as a consultant who comes in and says, here's the plan. You're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to do this. Because quite frankly, the business owner, they're the ones that are in the middle of it and they're going to make the decisions they're going to make. And if I keep telling you to do things you don't want to do, eventually you're just not going to do anything I'm telling you to, and you're just going to keep paying me money for what? I don't know.
Yes, indeed. Well, John, appreciate your time as always, and thanks for sharing your insights and 2 cents there. We'll see you again, I guess, in 2 weeks, hopefully, and
Yep.
look forward
Sounds
to
good.
following up then. Have a good rest of your day, sir.
You bet. Take care.
Bye bye.